In February of 1996, Nintendo released to the world the Pokémon series, with the first 4 games being Pokémon's Red, Blue, Yellow, and Green. Green only being available in Japan on the original Game Boy. And since then, they have created 9 generations of 37 core games. And so, with a long lineage of games, a lot of people will probably be asking, which one is the best generation? Now, from the title of this video, you've already guessed that I sit for Gen 4. But the only question you would need the answer to now is, why? Well, if you watched my last 2 videos on Pokemon, spoilers ahead if you haven't watched the last 2 Pokemon videos, you'll know that the most threatening evil organization comes from Gen 4 games, as well as the most powerful champion comes from the Gen 4 games. However, those only come from the Sinnoh region games. There are more games that we consider Gen 4, which are Heart Gold and Soul Silver, which were the Gen 2 remakes. If we include the side games, we also have Pokemon Battle Revolution and My Pokemon Ranch for the Nintendo Wii. So with 2 main reasons out of the way, we can move on to the other juicy bits. Also, be sure to comment below what you think is the best generation and why. I would love to hear the comments and read through them. Okay, so bear with me on this. I am going to talk a little bit more about the Sinnoh region, and I promise you it'll be good, so please just bear with me. With the introduction of Pokemon's Diamond, Pearl, and Platinum, we were introduced to a whole new region, Sinnoh. Whenever a new region comes out in Pokemon, many people are already excited to see how much more the world can expand with all the new Pokemon, and especially the new legendaries. Within these games, the main legendaries we were introduced to were Dialga, the Lord of Time, Palkia, the Lord of Space, and Giratina, the Lord of the Distortion World. Basically, he's Satan and he runs hell. Now, these Pokemon that I just listed came out with the base games, and they're some of the most powerful legendaries we could ever think of when we consider lore. I mean, we're literally talking about religion and physics, 2 subjects that shouldn't really mesh together in my opinion, unless you're a Scientologist, so... And within these games, we were also introduced to other powerful legendaries like Regigigas, the Pokemon that essentially moved the continents into where they are today. The Lake Guardian trio have the ability to calm down Dialga and Palkia, and they also taught humanity about emotions, knowledge, and willpower. So essentially these 3 gave us free will. With the Nintendo DS, we were introduced to the Nintendo Wi-Fi service, which would essentially give us free DLC Pokemon when we connected to it during events. And with this service, we were introduced to 4 new legendary Pokemon. The first to come was Manaphy, who was considered the Prince of the Sea, so suck it Kyogre, and was the only legendary Pokemon to this day to be able to breed, which gave us the legendary Phione. The second to come was Darkrai, which was a Pokemon that could control dreams and nightmares. Not only that, this Pokemon is able to control shadows, which is a pretty cool ability in my opinion. And then after Darkrai, we were introduced to a cute little fellow named Shaman. Now I'm a sucker for cute Pokemon. My favorite Pokemon is Eevee, and if I were to get a cat someday, I would definitely name it Eevee. But I'm getting off topic right now. Shaman is a Pokemon that can purify the land of its toxins and pollution while leaving a new field of flowers in its wake, which is a very unique and pleasant power to have. And the final legendary we would be introduced to while in the Sinnoh region is one that everyone is familiar with. God. I mean, Arceus. Well, we all know that Arceus is literally Pokemon God. As it was written in the book of Arceus, in the beginning there was nothing, until our Lord and Savior Arceus created the Hisuian region and Dialga and Palkia. In Arceus' name we pray. So not only do I think that having the literal incarnations of God and Satan in the same region is insane, but I also think that the designs of these legendaries were also very much peak, and this also extends to regular Pokemon as well. We were given goated Pokemon like Lucario and Togekiss, and the starters were also excellent. To this day, my favorite starter is Chimchar, and if we try to relate it to modern gaming stuff today, Black Myth Wukong is also a super popular game right now, so Sun Wukong is getting hella dubs at this point. Now, what I really think is unique about these two games is that this is also featured in the original versions of these games, is that we're given the opportunity to explore 2 whole regions, which gives us a lot more gameplay and a lot more places to explore. In other games, we're given the opportunity to get Pokemon from past regions, but never actually be able to go back to those regions. Instead, we're just given the opportunity to face champions from those past regions in special events or in the Battle Tower, and that would be it. With Heart Gold and Soul Silver, you're given access to the entirety of the Kanto region after you beat all 8 gyms in the Elite Four in Johto. From there, you have to face another 8 gyms while building your team to be even stronger. In other games, when you beat the Elite Four, the game is mostly over. Most likely you would just go to the Battle Tower or just grind out your Pokemon after post-game events so that you can do rematch battles. This new open world kind of idea for Pokemon was something that was pretty new to us, especially for kids growing up in the early 2000s like me. We didn't have easy access to emulators, I think. Also, I don't think emulators were a thing back then either. And not a whole lot of us owned the original Game Boy, so we couldn't really play the original Gold, Silver, and Crystal games either, so we wouldn't know. So when I first played these games, I just thought they were at first, because I've already experienced the perfection that is known as the Sinnoh region. But I grew up with the Kanto region remake games, and being able to see old Pokemon like Pikachu and Charizard return with newer graphics was such a cool thing to experience. Seeing everything in newer graphics like the Pokemon and the cities and hearing the remastered music was just so awesome and it was so cool to me. But what got my heart racing the most was the thrill/horror of facing my first ever post-game champion, Red. Now I'm someone who often grinds out his Pokemon to be like 5 levels above every gym leader, but I was sorely underprepared for Red, since my Pokemon were in the high 60s and low 70s. So imagine my surprise when Red pulls up with a level 88 Pikachu starter and just almost wipes out my entire team. I mean, I did manage to beat him on my first try by spamming all the healing items I had, but holy fuck was I scared. Like, I already thought Pokemon had given me enough jump scares with Cynthia, but the fact that they decided to bring Red back into the equation with back-to-back bangers is simply amazing to me. I guess another side thing I thought was really cool was the Pokewalker that came with Heart Gold and Soul Silver, which in my theory maybe could have been a prototype version of Pokemon Go, which would, you know, come out years later. So, back in my day, I also owned a Nintendo Wii, which was a groundbreaking console of its time since it was the first to implement motion controls in its system. I originally begged my parents for it because that was around the time I was introduced to the Smash Bros series with Brawl, banger game by the way, maybe I'll make a video on it, and I really wanted to play with my friends. After some time passed though, I saw on YouTube there was a Pokemon game on the Wii, which was Pokemon Battle Revolution. Now, some of you may or may not know this game, but you may be aware of its predecessor, Pokemon Stadium. Battle Revolution was essentially Stadium, but with updated graphics and new Pokemon from Gen 4. Now, at this time, Pokemon games were still mainly pixels with some form of 3D that was still pixelated, so imagine how amazed someone would be to see Pokemon come to life in 3D for the first time in their life. You'd be thinking, I'm in the future! Not only that, there were actual animations for the Pokemon and their attacks. And again, this is the first time that a Pokemon game on big consoles that added that kind of feature at this point. So now something we could only wish for from hardcore fans who knew coding, or, you know, just having us watch the anime, has now come to life and in our homes. So imagine how exciting it is for a little kid to be seeing this come to life on his TV while his parents are yelling at him to shut the fuck up. And another thing, what made this game truly special for me was that you could face your friends with your own custom teams that could be imported from your DS. That's right, you heard me right. You could literally use the Nintendo Wireless Connection service to connect your DS to your Wii so that you could import your Gen 4 teams into the game and use the DS as your controller. Now I know you could probably just also, you know, play against your friends by using the DSs and like connecting to each other's DS, but if you really wanted 2009's version of a 4K Pokemon battle, this was it. So not only did we get banger games from Gen 4, but we got new features from consoles and those games that we could only dream of in that time period. So one of the biggest factors I take into consideration when ranking a video game or scoring a video game is the music that comes in it. Typically, video game music is what, sets the tone and livens up the mood, and sometimes I even listen to it while I'm doing my own work outside. And if you really want some recommendations from other video games, I have a playlist or some list right here that I'm just gonna edit in. So music is really that important to me when it comes to video games. Now I know that Heart Gold and Soul Silver is just remastered music, but it doesn't mean that there aren't bangers in there. Some of the most iconic champion themes known to Pokemon come from this generation, with Champion Cynthia and Red. Also, yeah, I kind of do vibe a lot more with the old generation style of music because, I grew up with those games, so go ahead, you can call me a boomer or whatever, but hey, I at least grew up with Peak, you fucking bitch. Like, half the time I was playing those games, I wasn't even battling. I was literally just bopping to the music while my parents gave me a weird stare. So, is Gen 4 peak? Abso-fucking-lutely, and there's no way you can convince me otherwise. Like, don't even try. And if you really want to know why, especially in terms of the games, you can just go out and, get an emulator or something, or just buy a DS and buy a copy of the game and just play those games. Or just rewatch the damn video. So I'm not going to go any further because you already watched Peak throughout this entire video, so bye.